The leader line, they call it, that points toward the target itself. This is what is altitude, and the altitude's normally written down in hundredths. And see that little, the little dot right there? That dot don't belong there. That's the unknown, is that dot that's in front of that slash. He doesn't belong there. I'm one of those what you would call the high government official in the FAA. I was the division chief. I was only 3 or 4 down from the admiral. I became the branch chief for the quality control. The quality control branch later on became a division, and I became a division chief, and they called it the Accidents Investigations Branch in Washington, D.C. We investigated all the airline incidences, all the accidents. I stayed there for about 6 years and then retired. The way it started is there was a 747, a Japanese Airlines 747 was coming from the northwest going across the Alaskan territory. And he was at either 31, 33, or 35,000 feet. And it was, I want to say around 11 o'clock at night, but you can check the real times. He called and asked the controller if the controller had any traffic at his altitude. And the controller said no. Basically, it was a midnight operation. They didn't have too much traffic. And he said, well, something like I have a target at my 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock position, about 8 miles. Now, in the 747, they have radar in the nose that picks up the weather outside there. So his radar is picking up a target. He sees this target with his eye, and the target, the way he described it, was a huge ball with lights running around it, and I think he said it was like 4 times as big as a 747. Well, on the day I'm doing PERs, I got behind, and I told the secretary not to bother me, I'm doing PERs. And a few minutes later, the phone's ringing, and then she wouldn't stop calling. So I asked what was going on. She said, you got to talk to the people in Alaska. So I said, all right. So I forgot who it was that called, but he says, we got a problem here. I don't know what to tell the media. The whole office is full of the media from Alaska. What's the problem? He says, well, it's that UFO. I said, what UFO? He says, well, last week we had a UFO chase a 747 across the skies up here for about 30 minutes or so, and we didn't think too much of it. He says, but apparently the word got out, and we have all these news people here, and we want to know what to tell them. So being an old government employee, I told him what you always tell them, is tell them it's under investigation, and then get all that data together. I wanted all the discs that they had and all the tapes that they had available, and flown overnight to the tech center at Atlantic City. But they called the military, and they told the military they wanted all their tapes. We also control, the FAA controls all the airspace above the United States and its territory. It doesn't belong to the military, it doesn't belong to the guys shooting the rockets off. It belongs to the United States government, and it's controlled by the FAA. Nobody moves in this airspace unless we get the approval. So I told them to get the military's tapes and all their data and ship that down. Well, they called back an hour or so later, and they said the military said they were short on the tapes, and they had to put them back in service, and it's only been 12 days. So the administrator sent my boss was the associate director, Harvey Safir. Sounds like safer, but it's Safir. Sent him and me to Atlantic City to look at this thing to see if he had something to worry about. So we went in and told him that we wanted this room set up to be just like it was in Anchorage, and we wanted all that data to come to this scope, and we wanted to see everything the controller seen. We wanted to hear everything he heard, and we wanted it all tied together, the radar, the digital radar, and the sound. Found out later that some of the people that were working on that side of the fence that were displaying this had already reviewed the tapes and didn't feel comfortable in showing us what was on there. But they ran it through. When the air traffic controller had asked the military man, do you see anything? The military guy says, yes, I have a target at such and such. 1 o'clock and 8 miles from the Japanese pilot, 747. the military man said something like, yeah, I see him 35 miles north of Anchorage, and who's that at 11 or 1 o'clock in his position? And the FAA controller said, I don't have anybody. Do you have anybody? He said, it's not mine. And he came back and said, we have no traffic here. And a couple times during the operation, the Japanese pilot would say he's now at 11 o'clock, he's now at 1 o'clock, he's now at 3 o'clock. He was bouncing around, this guy here. And when he would say that, the military guy would cut in and say he's now at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and he would confirm the position. The military controller has what they call height-finding radar, and they have long-range radar and short-range radar. So if they don't catch it on one of their systems, they catch it on the other. And if you listen to the military man, at one time he said, I have it on the height radar, or my range radar, whatever he called it, which indicated that he had a target on his system. Oz wouldn't record it. Well, they ran through for the best part of 31 minutes. The UFO would be in one position or the other, following our Japanese 747. After a while, they changed his altitude. It still stayed with him. They gave him a 360. When you're a 747, you make a 360, it takes you a few minutes to turn around. You cover a lot of space. It still stayed with him. It was either in the front, on the side, or behind him. 10, I approve 1628 to make deviations as necessary for traffic. The traffic stayed with 1628 through turns and descents in the vicinity of Fairbanks. I requested 1628 make a right 360. They would see that the target be at 1 o'clock and 7 or 8 miles, and then next it would be, in the next sweep, which would be like 10 seconds later, it would be behind him 7 or 8 miles, and it always stayed 7 or 8 miles away from the target when it was all done. And we went back to Washington the next day. The administrator had called down and wanted to know if he had a problem or not. And my boss had told him, well, we took a video of it, and it looks like there might have been something there. Well, his thing was, can you come up and give us a quick 5-minute rundown? What happened? So we go up to the 10th floor, and in the conversation of a 4 or 5 minute debriefing, the administrator, which was Ingen at the time, Admiral Ingen, he said, well, have you got that video with you? Can you show me the video? And I said, yeah, and then you just plug it in and play it. So we plugged it in for him. He started watching it, and after about 5 minutes, he told the staff, I cancel my, he had a meeting with someone in 15 minutes. He says, first he said, I'll be late, and then next it was cancel, and then I'm going to be here till this is over. So he watched the whole thing just over half an hour. When he got all,
this was the administrator of FAA?
The administrator of the FAA. We got all done. He says, what do you guys think? Well, I guess that's why he was the service director and I wasn't. He gave a good political answer that said he wasn't sure what it was. Didn't know if it was anything. So his take was, don't talk to anybody. Don't talk to anybody until I give you the okay. The next day, I got a call from someone with the scientific study group or the CIA, I'm not sure who it was the first time. And they wanted to know, they had some questions about the incident. And I had said, I don't know what you're talking about, you probably want to call the Admiral. A few minutes later, the Admiral calls down and says, I set up a briefing tomorrow morning at 9 or 10 o'clock, what it was. In the round room, bring all the stuff you have, bring everybody up there, and give them whatever they want. And we want to get out of it, just let them do whatever they want to do with it. So I brought all the people from the tech center. We went upstairs, we had all kinds of boxes of data that we had them print out, filled up the room. They brought in 3 people from the FBI, 3 people from the CIA, and 3 people from Reagan's scientific study team, and I don't know who the rest of the people were. But they were all excited. We gave them the video, let them watch the video. Then I had they had all kinds of questions about the frequencies, the rate of the antenna turning, on and on and on. How many radars, how many antennas, how's the data get processed. They were all excited the only way a man would be if that was his job. When they got done, they actually swore all these other guys into that this never took place. We never had this meeting, and this was never recorded. Now, what I tried to tell you before...
Who said that? Who was saying
This was one of the guys from the CIA, okay, that they were never there, this never happened. When I asked them at the time, I said, well, I don't know why you're saying this. I mean, if there was something there, and if it's not the stealth bomber, then, you know, it's a UFO. And if it's a UFO, why wouldn't you want the people to know? Oh, they get all excited over that. You don't even want to say those words. He said this is the first time they ever had 30 minutes of radar data on a UFO, and they're all itching to get their hands into the data and to find out what it is and what really goes. And if they come out and told the American public that they ran into a UFO out there, it would cause panic across the country, so therefore you can't talk about it. And they're taking all this data. So I said, okay, take all that data. That's what you want. But
who took the data?
Well, that group. I don't know who it went to, but that group took it. But they took only what we had there. They didn't ask me if there was anything else that I had. They said they're taking all this data. And I said, fine. Now, I had the original video that I took, and I had the pilot's report that came through, the first report, and I had the FAA's first report that was all downstairs on my table. They didn't ask for that, so I didn't give it to them. And later on, when I retired, that was the stuff that was in my office, and all that came with me, and we've been sitting on that ever since. So we watched the whole thing. Now, what happened at the end is the Japanese 747 is leaving the airspace. There's a United coming up to land in Alaska. The controller says to the United, we've got a Japanese 747 up here that is being chased, followed by a UFO. We'd like you to check him out. Can we leave you at the altitude? And the United says, fine, or sure. And so they give him a left turn, 20 degrees or so, keep him at his altitude, and they kind of run him in toward the Japanese 747. Once the two airplanes pass, that target follows the United down through the airspace until he gets on final and then disappears. When they read the reports that come through, the FAA has to protect themselves, so you can't say you saw a target, even though this is what he said. So they made him change his report to position symbols, which makes it sound like it wasn't really a target. Well, if that's not a target, then a lot of the other position symbols that we're separating from aren't targets either. And when I read that, I thought, there's something fishy here, that somebody's worried about something rather than they're trying to cover up. When the CIA told us that this never happened and we never had this meeting, I believe it was because they didn't want the public to know that this was going on. Normally we would put out some type of a news release that such and such happened. That I think it was mysterious that the military tapes disappeared. It wasn't right. We went from 30 days to 15 days, and the first indication makes it look like it must have been a military operation that they were doing up there, or the military knew more than we did about who the visitors were, and they didn't want anybody else to know. And of course, the people that are involved at the lower levels don't really know what's going on above them. When someone calls up and says, put those tapes back in service, they just put them back in service. They really don't care. When they asked me what I thought, I told them that it looked like we had a UFO that was up there. The reason it wasn't on the FAA's tapes was because it was too large of an aircraft, and it was picked up as weather, so we wouldn't record it. That the pilot, the Japanese pilot, seen it. The Japanese pilot drew pictures of it. Eventually, they gave the Japanese pilot a hard time because of what he said. He was embarrassing his country. Our military controllers said they seen it. Our FAA controllers said they seen it. Our FAA controllers, after a period of time, came back and said they really didn't see a target. They saw something else, which makes it sound like somebody is helping them fill out their reports, and therefore that looks suspicious. During the period of 2030, I was on duty and I was working the D-50. I'm making this statement to clarify certain points in my original statement on November the 19th. This was January the 6th. My guess is, because of the way it was, it's not part of the military's operation anymore, that it was a UFO. But who do you tell that you were involved in a UFO incident without them looking at you like you ain't wrapped too tight? And this is, I think, is the way our country is set up now. If someone comes out and says, I saw a UFO on TV, the only ones that see a UFO in the TV programs are the rednecks out in the country that are going coon hunting or alligator hunting at night. You don't find anybody with any kind of smarts or some professional individual saying, hey, last night, let me tell you what I saw. They don't display that in the United States. So if you talk about seeing a UFO, you're putting yourself in a funny kind of a category. That's probably one reason why you don't hear about it anymore. As far as I'm concerned, I saw a UFO chase a Japanese 747 across the sky for over half an hour on radar. And see, all these little hits are something that they have to explain all the time. If you can go within it was a 10-second radar, so at 1 o'clock and 7 miles, you see them, and then 10 seconds later, or even not even 10 seconds later, it's less than 10 seconds, because when the system got southwest of the sweep got southwest of the Japanese 747, it picked them up again, so it would go from 1 o'clock, 7 or 8 miles to 6, 7 o'clock, 7 or 8 miles inside of 4 or 5 seconds. You have to be moving pretty quickly, and it's faster than anything that I know of in our government.
It's 2:30, 6:50, so.
Okay, we're right on time. We're close enough, I think.
I've been involved in a lot of cover-ups with the FAA. When we gave the presentation to the Reagan staff, I was behind the group that was there, and when they were speaking to the people in the room, they had all those people swear that this never happened. They never had me swear it never happened. But it always bothered me that we have these things going on, and when you see something or you hear something on the radio or TV, the news, that it's put down as it's not there. I have a hard time saying nothing because it's not there. When I first told those that I knew about this, it just died. I mean, nothing ever happens. So you look at it kind of funny, like, and it still bothers me that I've seen all this, I know all this, and like I'm walking around like with the answer, and nobody wants to ask the question to get the answer, and it kind of irritates me a little bit. And I don't believe our government should be set up that way. I think when we have something like this, that you could probably find out more about what's going on in the world. If they can travel that far, that distance, with that type of machinery, who knows what they could do here for the health of the nation, of the people, the food they could give them, the cancers we could cure. They have to know more than us to be able to travel in that speed. I sure would like to know what's going on. And that's one reason why I'm not afraid to talk about what's happening. What I can tell you is what I've seen with my own eyes, and I said, I've got a videotape, I've got I got the voice tape, I've got the reports that were filed that will confirm what I've been telling you. Those people that say that if these UFOs existed, then someday it would be on radar and that to be professionals would see it, then I can tell them that back in 1986 there were enough professional people that saw it. It was brought down to headquarters, FAA headquarters, Washington, D.C. The administrator's seen the tape of it. The people that we were debriefing, they've all seen. Reagan Scientific Study Team, the 3 of those professors, doctors, they've seen it. As far as I was concerned, they were the ones that verified my own thoughts about it. They were very, very excited about the data. They had said at that time this was the only time, and they had used the words, a UFO was ever recorded on radar for any length of time where it's 30-some minutes, and they have all this data to look at. Now, a 30-minute radar return filled up boxes across the thing, and the boxes were stacked 2 or 3 high. There was a lot of paper data to look at. They knew the frequency now of the radar. They knew how fast it turned. They knew where it was. They had the military that confirmed it. And when I gave them my card, the CIA guy said, we're with the company. They don't say CIA. In the company, we don't have cards. We don't have company cards. They may have a card, but it's nothing to do with the company. And he said that there's nothing we can give out. I'm sure on the Admiral's calendar, they have who reserved that, or they should have, who reserved the room and who was there for the day of the briefing. Even the Admiral had to talk about it wherever he went because he canceled too many meetings to watch this thing here. And it was late at night when we got back. We got back at either 4:30, 4:45. And you know, he canceled his meetings, and to me that meant that he thought it was something to say. We had a government investigator come by checking just a few weeks ago, checking on an individual that we know for his security clearance with the CIA. And she's with the CIA checking on him to make sure he's an okay guy. And during this period of time, I had said, well, I've been involved with the CIA one other time, and oh, what was that? So when I started giving her this UFO thing, you could see her look, like she's in the room with two kooks, you know, and like, can I get out of here safe? It's the only thing you can see on her face. And it was panic, and I'm thinking, wow, that's the way the world's, but I think that's the way the government wants the outside people to view those that have seen something like this, like they are kooks, they're not wrapped too tight, and you got to watch out for them. That's the image that they put out. I guess I really don't care about the image, but I do feel like they had something and that we've seen it.